To those assembled here at the home of Sopris Theater Company and the Isaacson School of Communications, Arts, and Media at Colorado Mountain College's Spring Valley campus outside of Glenwood Springs. CMC is proud to celebrate Black History Month. I'm your host for the moment. My name is Adrian Victor Fielder, and I want you to know CMC finds it very important to celebrate Black History Month. And one of the ways we do that each year is by partnering with Colorado Humanities to host a performance from their dynamic series called Black History Live. They do this every February. And it's a Chautauqua series, which means that it's a performance art in which actors portray historical figures in character. And in the process, teach live audiences such as you about the life and times of those figures. In the past, thanks to Colorado Humanities' work with scholar actors such as Becky Stone and Charles Everett Pace and Marvin Jefferson, who's with us today, we have been visited by such luminaries as Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, Maya Angelou, Josephine Baker, and most recently, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as played last year by Marvin Jefferson. This year, thanks to Mr. Jefferson returning as legendary jazz musician Louis Armstrong, we get to meet Satchmo, who will be here on stage in a couple minutes. But first, I'd like to thank some of the many people who made this possible, starting with the technical prowess of CMC's IT wizards Troy Fisher and Seth Anderson. Thank you for setting this live stream up that's making this event accessible to people far beyond those assembled here in person today. Also want to thank our community partner KDNK, Community Access Radio, Cody Lee and Chris Hassick, thank you for joining us. And Art Ackerman, want to send a special thank you to the Ackerman family and Art Ackerman, who's about to celebrate his 100th birthday as the most experienced DJ in the world. Has been doing a show called Swing, Swing, Swing for many years, and is here in spirit and hopefully out there in YouTube land as well. Also, would like to thank students from our theater and event production program. We have a certificate program. These students, Myra, Calvin, Johnny, and Ashton, are the ones with us today. Thank you for your help. They are learning the skills to put on events just like this one. And anytime there's a person on stage talking who needs sound production, light production, or live stream, any old thing, whether it's a conference, wedding, theater event, or etc., they get to learn how to do those skills and then practice them, which is a key component to CMC's curricular strategy. We give people real-life experiential opportunities to apply their learning in real-life contexts that lead to jobs. So they get to do that work through our very own Sopris Theater Company here, in whose home we are occupying right now, and through internships with our many community partners in the performing arts, including local ones like Aspen's Wheeler Opera House and state organizations like the one we're hosting today, Colorado Humanities. And with that, I'd like to invite down to the stage Jennifer Messias, History Programs Coordinator with Colorado Humanities, to come up and introduce today's performance. Thank you.
Hi, thank you guys so much for coming out. We really appreciate it. Colorado Humanities has been hosting Black History Live for a number of years now. And as Adrian mentioned, we're incredibly grateful for this partnership because Colorado Humanities is your humanities council. Every state has one, and that means that we get to put on all of this wonderful programming, and the humanities is truly for everyone. So I hope that you guys enjoy today's performance. Our presenter, Marvin Jefferson, flew in yesterday from New Jersey. I'm based in Denver, so we both got the wonderful United tiny little person flight up here, which was exciting. But we're excited to be here. He will be doing 2 performances as well tomorrow, in Grand Junction. So this is just a really nice opportunity to be on this part of Colorado. So without further ado, I just want to share a little bit about what a Chautauqua performance is in case you haven't been to one before. So I like to think of his Chautauqua as history comes to life versus how many of us probably learned about history with somebody standing in the front of a classroom at a podium telling you to memorize that Pearl Harbor was on December 7th, or telling you dates and facts. Whereas Chautauqua is a way of really being able to think about somebody's life through their perspective. And what makes these presenters so impressive is that they are researched scholars. They have read as much as they possibly can to learn about the characters. And Louis Armstrong is a particular character that's near and dear to my heart just because he developed this character as a special ask from Colorado for one of our other Chautauquas in Greeley. And I'm pleased that it was incredibly well received, and I think just gives us a glimpse into life in that time period. And hopefully as you're listening, you'll see some threads and correlations to conversations that we're having today. So without further ado, just to be safe, in case anybody hasn't silenced their phone yet, please be sure to do so, or your watches, or your Tamagotchis, or whatever you may have. But come back a little bit in time with me to the year 1966. We are in a dressing room at a theater in Los Angeles after a gig. Mr. Louis Armstrong is about to speak with a reporter who wants to write an article about his life. The reporter is particularly interested in this great talk that Satchmo is about to share with lessons about his life. Afterwards, after he's done speaking to the reporter, he will be open to taking questions from you as an audience in the year 1966. So without further ado, Louis Armstrong.
All right, Mr. Merriman. So you want to do an interview and talk about Louis Armstrong for Life magazine. All right, well, we got about half an hour. Got fans waiting to talk to Pops, and I never want to disappoint. Yeah, we can talk more in depth at my home in Queens. Yeah, I'm gonna leave my tuxedo on so you can take some good pictures. I won't be playing on my horn though. Yeah, I gotta rest my chops, man. Also, I got all this bridge work done in my mouth, man. You know, I don't know, I've been able to blow with all this stuff in my mouth, but trust and believe, I found a way. So what should we talk about? Well, let's break it up. Talk from the beginning. July 4th, 1900 is when I was born, New Orleans, a section called the back of town, Jane Alley. Mary Ann, who I call May Ann, was my mother, and she raised and supported me and my sister Beatrice, who we call Mama Lucy. Beatrice was 2 years younger than me. And my mother did this all by herself. Yeah, I lived with my mother from 5 years old on to I was old enough to take care of myself. Yeah, we had a few stepfathers, but I never got a chance to really get to know my real father growing up. Yeah, his name was Willie Armstrong. I don't have too much good to say about him. Yeah, we moved from the back of town into the city where the honky-tonk was located. Yeah, a whole row of Negroes of all types of characters lived in rooms that they rented, and they fixed up the best way that they could. Yeah, you know, me and my mother, it was something else growing up there. Now, some of the Negroes tried to take advantage of my mother because, you know, they thought they were smarter than her, and because she was raising 2 children by herself, all alone, till they were grown, which was one hell of a struggle. After having a bit of schooling, I had to work at a very young age. Yeah, you know, a lot of fathers, a lot of kids suffered with starvation because the fathers wouldn't do the honest work they could have done. I tell you, if it weren't for my that nice Jewish family, the Kanofskis, Oh man, I would have starved many a time. Yeah, I will always love the Jewish people. All of my life. Yeah, I worked for the Kanofkis when I was quite young, pulling a junk cart, which also delivered coal. And they looked out for me. Yeah, had me eat over at their home, and sometimes I was able to sleep over there. Yeah, they even lent me money for me to buy my first cornet. Yeah. And Mrs. Karnofsky would sing a Russian lullaby. And sometimes I would listen and join in. She said I had a voice. Yeah, it was so, so beautiful. Yeah, well, I had to keep working to help my mother, May Ann, put food on the table. Man, I wasn't lucky enough to have parents to take care of paying for my schooling. I had to work, because it was just the three of us living in this one big room, which is what we could afford, but we were happy. My mother had one thing that no matter how much schooling anyone has, and that was good common sense and respect for human beings. Yeah, that's my diploma. All my life I remembered it. To me, no college in the whole world could top it, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, Mayanne. Mayanne. You know, when I was born, my mother and father lived with my dear grandmother. And my moms and pops argued and fought constantly to the point of blows. Finally, my mother, she had to leave. She left me with my grandmother. And my father, he just left to go with some other woman. Man, my mother moved to a place at Liberty and Perdido Street, which was filled with prostitutes who didn't earn as much money as the prostitutes from the Storyville section, the famous red light district. Now, did my mother do any hustling? I can't say for certain, but if she did, she definitely kept it from my sight. Now, one thing I do know for certain, that everyone, from church-going folks to the lowest of the low, treated my mother with the greatest respect. My mother, she said hello to everybody, and she walked with her head held high. She never envied anybody. I suppose I inherited that from my mom. Yeah, I loved and learned from my grandmother as well the short time I was with her. Yeah, she spent her time trying to teach me right and wrong, but she wouldn't hesitate to whip my butt when necessary. She would send me to get a switch, and I would come back with the smallest one I could find. And sometimes she would laugh and let it go, but if she were really angry, man, she would whip my butt for what I had done for weeks. Yeah, Mayanne did the same thing. And 2 years later, my father decided to leave the woman he was with and get with Mayanne, which resulted in my sister, Beatrice Mama Lucy, being born. Yeah, I hadn't seen my mother till I was 5 years old. Yeah, I eventually moved back with my mom, although it was sad to, leave my grandmother. I love my mother just the same. See, she felt that she hadn't done right by me when she left me with my grandma, and she wanted to make it up to me, which she most definitely did. Now, we did have these stepfathers, however. Man, every time I turned around, there was another stepfather. Now, some of them were good guys, but some of them were downright lowlives, like Slim, and most especially Albert. Man, one day, Albert and my mother got into an argument. He called her a dirty name, and he punched her in the face, knocking her into the water. Man, her face was bloody. She was screaming, and I was frantic. And I swore if I ever saw Albert again, I would kill him. No worries. Old timers said that Albert had died. Oh well. Now, when Slim and my mother got together, I was a little bit older. And every day in the neighborhood there were fights. I mean, there were fights between prostitutes and toughs and kids. That's why they call the neighborhood the battlefield. In any case, one day, 10 o'clock a.m., Slim and Mayan start fighting. And somebody ran up to me and said, Dipper! Well, that my nickname, short for Dipper Mouth. Man, some man is beating your mother up. Well, I dropped my books, tore off to the back. And when I got there, they were still fighting. Slim, leave my mother alone, man. Leave her alone. He wasn't paying me no never mind. And that's when I thought, bricks. Yeah, I started throwing bricks at him. And I ain't waiting area one. The great picture Satchel Paige ain't have nothing on me. Whoo! Wasn't like hell. Slim ain't gonna jump you, folk were saying. But no worries, because one of the bricks had caught Slim in the side and he doubled up. He wasn't gonna run after me or anybody else. They had to take him to the hospital. Pain got so bad. I never saw Slim again. He was a pretty good blues player, but aside from that, we didn't have anything in common. And I didn't particularly like his style, nor did I like him beating on my mother. There will be no one beating on my mother as far as I'm concerned. Oh yes, Mr. Merriman. I got so many stories, I don't know when to stop. Now, I would like to talk about my being sent to the Colored Waifs Home for Boys, because it was there that I began my journey as a real musician. Now, when I was a kid, I mean, we sang all the time. We had our little group, and we would, imitate the instruments and stuff. They call it scat singing now, but back then that was all we did. And when I heard for the first time the great Joe King Oliver play his cornet when I was a child, it impacted me then and now. Anyway, one day, New Year's Eve to be exact, I wanted to do something special. Now, usually I'd be with my friends and we would be singing for coins, but this day was more than about singing, man. It was New Year's Eve. Yeah. I found a gun, a .38 caliber pistol in my mother's drawer, probably from one of my stepfathers. Anyway, I took it, put it under my belt, put down my shirt, ran off with my friends. And during the festivities, there was somebody firing off a gun in the air. And one of my friends said, "Get him, Dipper." And so without hesitation, I pulled out my gun, pointed it to the sky, and let her rip. Boom, 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 boom. You see, my gun was louder. And the kid who was firing his gun got scared and ran. Man, me and my friends laughed and, was singing, walking down the street, not a care in the world. So I reloaded and fired off again, much to the delight of my friends. But suddenly, the strong arms, well, the police, for those who don't know, caught me from behind and my friends split. I turned around and I saw this tall white detective who had seen me firing off my gun the whole time. Oh man, I cried, pleaded with him, please, mister, don't arrest me. I promise I won't do it again. Please, let me go back to my mama. Please, mister, don't arrest me. No use at all. They locked me up, and I slept on a cold, hard bed till the morning. Yeah, I was sick and downhearted, let me tell you. I was also very scared, more scared than I was when I heard that Jack Johnson had knocked out Jim Jeffries. See, on that day, I was selling papers that I stole, and when black boys ran up to me and said, "Jack Johnson knocked out Jim Jeffries, and the white boys are mad about it, and they want to take it out on us." Man, I ran home in a flash. But this was way worse. Some man came to my cell. Louis Armstrong. Yes, sir. This way. You're being sent colored waits home for boys. I didn't know it then, but that was a turning point, a positive turning point in my life, because it was there that I learned not just the sense of discipline, but I learned how to become a real musician. Now I know, Mr. Merriman, these stories you're hearing about my growing up in New Orleans and how it must sound, but I tell you, I wouldn't trade my growing up in New Orleans for anything else in the world. I loved it. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans and miss it each night and day? I know I'm not wrong. The feeling getting stronger the longer I stay away. Yes, Mr. Moss-covered vines, the tall sugar pines, where mockingbirds used to sing. And I'd like to see that lazy Mississippi hurrying into spring. Oh, Mr. Merriman, you want to talk about 1957? And every time I think about 1957, I get pissed off and sad. You dig? I mean, it was in 1957, we were touring Tennessee. And I don't know where we were. I was playing, I believe, Back of Town Blues, when some fool decided to throw some dynamite at the place I was singing in or playing in. When I heard the explosion, I said, "It's all right, folks. It's just the phone." Afterwards, I told somebody, "Man, I will play wherever they'll listen." Now, I know I'm playing in some segregated houses, and I know that's not cool for some people. But see, my horn, my music, don't know nothing about all that racial stuff. But one day, that racial stuff, along with whatever else I was dealing with at the time, you know, the one-nighters, my beat-up chops, etc., came to a point when I was looking at the television at what was going on in Little Rock, Arkansas, with the Negro children trying to get to the school. These were children we're talking about, being heckled and cursed at and spit at. My band, an integrated band, by the way, the All-Stars. Now, we had come to Grand Forks, North Dakota for an evening gig, and because I had seen this crap on the television, I hooked up with a reporter from the University of Arkansas, and I let loose. The way they treating my people in the South, this government can go to hell. It got to the point that a colored man ain't even got a country. I said that President Eisenhower has no guts, he's two-faced, and he has no guts for allowing Governor Orville Faubus to run the country. Now, it was said in the newspaper that I call Governor Faubus an uneducated plowboy. But what I really called him was something with the word starting with the word mother. I ain't gonna, complete it, but you got it. Now, when the gentleman finished while writing the article, he asked me if I want to change anything. I said, no, you leave that article just like that. Don't you change a thing. That's how I feel and felt and still feel, solid. And I kept going. Now, I'm supposed to be America's cultural ambassador to the Soviet Union. But if I go over there and they ask me, what's wrong with your country, what am I supposed to tell them? I will not take back a thing that I've said. I've lived a life playing beautiful music for 40 years, but I feel the downtrodden situation just like any other Negro. My parents and family suffered through all that old South stuff. And things are supposed to be new now. What I said is me. I feel that the Negroes, they ain't looking for nothing. All they want is a square shake. But when I got to look on television or reading the paper about some little colored girl being spit on, I got a right to get sore. Do you dig me when I still say that I got a right to blow my top over injustice? Cold empty like old Ned. Wish I were dead. What did I do to be so black and blue? Even the mouse ran from my house. They laugh at you and scorn you too. What did I do to be so black and blue? I'm right inside. That don't help my case, 'cause I can't hide what is in my face. How would it end? Ain't got a friend. My only sin is in my skin. Man, I really got dogged for saying what I said, by both white and black. I guess they didn't expect old so-called Uncle Tom Satchmo to break it down like that. What was very painful was that not many Negro musicians stood with me. That hurt. Still does. I was just trying to stop Negroes from getting their head beat in at the time. That's all. Man, Mr. Merriman, can we change the subject, because this is depressing the hell out of me. Oh, I know what'll change it. Let's talk about laxatives. Yeah, Swiss Chris. Hey, you ever hear about it? Wait, hold on now. Hold on, Mr. Merriman. Now, wait a minute. Now, when I was younger, my mother was a wonderful cook, you know, but we were poor, so a lot of the food we ate was heavy. So she would go by the railroad tracks and gather up all kinds of herbs and things of that nature, come back, boil it up, and give it to me and my sister to drink. You see, because according to her, you know, sickness starts in the stomach. So if you clear out your stomach, no sickness. Now, she made me and my sister promise to take our physic, that's what they called laxative back then, take our physic every day. Now, as I got older, I was drinking something called Pluto water, and, you know, and the problem with that is that, you know, when you're traveling, sometimes the bottles break. But somehow I stumbled upon Swiss Chris, and it's been smooth sailing ever since, man. Listen, let me tell you something. When you go to the bathroom, you go to that throne, you got to leave it all behind you, man. I'm telling you, you got to leave it all behind. Yeah, that changed the subject now, didn't it? Yeah. Oh, hello, Dolly. Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah, hello, Dolly, man. That came out the blue. You know, we ain't know how that happened. Let me tell you. Now, it was in the winter of 1963. Now, my band was commissioned to, you know, record 3 songs. One song was Hello, Dolly, from the musical Hello, Dolly that hadn't opened on Broadway yet. The second song was from the same musical called Penny in My Pocket. And the third song was from a musical called Bye Bye Birdie called Got a Lot of Living to Do, right? So, you know, I listened, you know, listened to the song and all that. And then when we got to the studio, you know, they cut out the Penny in My Pocket that was cut from the musical. And so we recorded, you know, Got a Lot of Living to Do. And we recorded Hello, Dolly. Now, I got to be honest with you. I wasn't crazy about Hello, Dolly. Didn't like it. I mean, you call me in the studio to do this? But, you know, we tinkered with it, you know. And, you know, at the beginning of the song, you know how, you know, Hello, Dolly. Okay, now, the sound engineer had suggested that I introduce myself. So he was saying I should do, hello, Dolly, this is Louis. And I said, whoa, wait a minute, man, wait a minute. My name is Louis, not Louis. I'm not from France. And so when you hear the song today, that's what it is. So we recorded it, didn't think twice about it, went on our way. Now, about maybe 3 months later, we're playing somewhere in the Midwest, and we're playing gig, and we hear the crowd, hello, Dolly. And at first, I'm like, well, I just ignore it, And so we play another gig, and we're doing our thing, and hello, Dolly. And I turned to the back there, man, what the hell is hello, Dolly? I mean, what is this? And one of my band members said, remember the song that we had recorded, back in New York, last year. It was a Broadway tune. I said, well, does anybody remember this damn song? So, we didn't have any sheet music, so we had to buy a record and listen to it, and then, we included it, in the show. And man, when they start playing, the piano start playing the opening note, man, people start jumping up and down and screaming. It was pandemonium. This song had been a huge hit on the radio, and we had no idea. Matter of fact, the thing would climb in the charts and became #1, knocking off the Beatles. Yeah. So, what we gonna do right now, Mr. Merriman, is you gonna sing a little Dolly with me. Now, I'm gonna sing the first part, and you're gonna sing the second. Why? Because I want to do it, man. Come on. All right. Let me get the beat. Hello, Dolly. This is Louis. Dolly, it's so nice to have you back where you belong. You're looking swell, Dolly. I can tell, Dolly. You're still glowing, you're still growing, you're still going strong. I feel the room swaying from the band playing one of our old favorite songs from way back when. So take her rap, fellas, find her an empty lap, fellas. Dolly, never go away again. All right, now that's my part. Now, come on, Mr. Merriman. I want you to sing it with me. Come on. It ain't hard. Come on. What? 1, 2, come on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, Dolly. This is Louis. Dolly, it's so nice to have you back where you belong. You're looking swell, Dolly. I can tell, Dolly. You still glowing, you still growing, you still going strong. I feel the room swaying from the band playing one of our old favorite songs from way back when. So, golly gee, fellas, have a little faith in me, fellas. Dolly, never go away, promise you'll never go away, Dolly. Never go away again. Yes, hello, Dolly. All right, Mr. Merriman. Now that we're talking about music, I can talk about my dream, playing with my idol, the great Joe King Oliver. Listen, in 1922, I had become so popular in New Orleans that I could play anywhere I wanted. I told myself that I would never, ever leave New Orleans unless Joe Oliver asked me to be in his band. Now, Joe Oliver had left New Orleans in 1918 and went to Chicago, and he'd done very well. Well, he wrote me a letter, a telegram, asking me to join his band and to play second cornet. Now, I had seen many musicians leave New Orleans and come back messed up. So for me, it was with Joe or no go. Now, my band I was with, they were trying to discourage me from going, saying that Joe was scabbing and that Joe was on the musician union's unfair list, but none of that stuff mattered to me. Man, I loved and admired Joe Oliver since Hector was a pup. And he was always cool with me. And I didn't know anything about unions and all that stuff at that time. So none of that stuff they were saying about Joe mattered to me. So I went home, and packed my bag to make sure I catch that 7 p.m. train heading to the Windy City. My mother made me a trout sandwich. And when I got to the train station, man, my band, and it looked like everybody from New Orleans was there to wish me off and wish me well. Even these old sisters, man, these were some women who had, looked after me when I was a kid, and they were hugging me, and the handkerchief, and they had tears in their eyes because they were so happy. And when the train came, Pullman porters and waiters who knew me from me playing on the tailgate wagons, to advertise dances and balls, as we call them, they said, "Where you going, Dipper?" And when the conductor said, "All aboard," I said, "Man, I'm going to Chicago to play with my idol, Papa Joe." And the rest, as they say, Mr. Merriman, was history. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans and miss it each night and day? I know I'm not wrong. The feeling getting stronger the longer I stay away. Yes, Mr. Moss-covered pines, the tall sugar pines, where mockingbirds used to sing. And I'd like to see that lazy Mississippi hurrying in to spring. Oh, the Mardi Gras, the memories of Creole tunes that fill the air. I dreamed of old magnolias in bloom and wishing that I was there. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans? Well, that's where you left your heart. And there's one thing more, I miss the one I care for more than I miss New Orleans. Interview's over. Let them fans in, pups. Yeah, let them fans in. All right. Now, does anybody have is there any questions? I might have some questions. I can't see a daggone thing. I guess they gotta turn on the light. I can't see, Pops can't see. Okay. Now, does anyone have any questions? That's even better. Anyone have any questions to ask, Pop? Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us here this afternoon, Mr. Armstrong. You have been embraced by all the business, all of the television shows. You have performed with all the best white performers. You've been embraced there. Do you feel that you have been included or incorporated into the white society, despite the love that has been exuded to you on the media and through all of your albums?
Well, I wish you could tell that to New Orleans. They didn't include me for the longest time. So, I think it's the music, man. I think it's the music that people dig. My thing is that music don't have no color, and which is why I got an integrated band. So, I hope they dig it, but the main thing is the music. I don't come there trying to, put myself, it ain't me. Without my horn and music, I don't think I'd get this attention. But it's that music, man. That's what I think hooks people. Now, I hate to say it, but Bing Crosby never, and I've worked with him, but he never invited me over to his house, you know. For the longest time, you know, because I had an integrated band and I wouldn't segregate the music, I wasn't able to go to New Orleans. I refused to go. So, like I said, it was, I mean, some people dig it, but, you know, some people, because of this, you know, I'm not, you know, included in all the stuff, man. There's things that happened to me was very disrespectful. So, I understand what you're saying, and in some instances that's true, but, no, man, I still got to do that dance, you know. Anybody else? Right over here. That young lady right there.
I just want to know what your mama thought of your success.
You know, my mother, she died rather young. She was only like 46 when she died. And she was only 16 years old when she had me, you see. But she was able to see the beginnings of my success, particularly in Chicago. When I had gone with Joe Oliver, and I played with his band, and when I got married and my wife insisted that I leave Joe Oliver and do my own thing, I was able to get my mother a fully furnished apartment. And because she had done so much struggling and had done so much in terms of trying to help me as best as she could, that was one of the happiest moments of my life. She could see her son, little Louis, you know, doing for his mama. So yeah, that was very important to me. Yeah, but she wasn't able to see the success I had now because she didn't live that long. God bless her. Anyone else? Let me get over here. Yes.
Yes, sir. How did you learn how to play the horn?
That's a good question. You know, I had a talent for it when I was working for the Kanofskis and pulling that junk wagon. I had a little tin horn that I would blow, you know, to announce us coming to deliver coal and things of that nature. So I always had this affinity with the horn, but it was just raw talent. It wasn't anything, you know, focused. But when I got to the Colored Waste Home for Boys, that's where I learned the mechanics of the horn. That's where I learned, you know, the other things that came, or certainly began to learn that. And so it was through that and through the discipline of learning from varied people. When I left the Colored Waste Home for Boys, which I led the band, which was quite, you know, again, my mother, she was quite happy about that. But I had done the Riverboat, played on there, a gentleman by the name of Fate Marable, and he taught me how to read music. So it's been a step-by-step process, but it's this constant discipline that I have, learning the various things, learning about different players, not just King Oliver, who was my idol and my mentor, who also taught me just by playing with him, but certainly listening to, you know, classical musicians and things of that nature. So there's always been this affinity for the horn. But I would say that through my discipline and through those people willing to teach me, I learned even more. Let me get back here. Yes.
Huge fan. I was just wondering, other than Mr. Joe Oliver, who else inspired you musically, and what advice do you have for young people wanting to get into jazz and learning how to play?
Yeah. Well, you know, that's a good question. That's a great question. Again, it was something that I needed to do. Okay, so it starts with that thing that's in you where you have to do that. That's number one. And if you have that, mentors come. You know, Joe Oliver, he came to me. I heard his music and it inspired me to such a degree where I would like follow him like a little puppy, you know, when he would be playing. And as I grew older and kept up my thing, you know, ultimately he saw me, he was kind of like a father figure to me. There were other musicians that were inspirational to me as well. Sidney Bechet, the great clarinetist, he was instrumental to me. Singers were instrumental to me as well, like Ma Rainey and Bessie Smith. Those people were inspirational to me. I played with a gentleman called Earl Hines. I don't know if anybody heard of it, the great pianist, Earl Father Hines. And even though I guess because we're so much the same, we kind of have a falling out, but he was able to match me in playing, but his playing would be with the piano, mine would be with the horn, so we'd be challenging one another. That's also something important, to find someone who matches you, who helps you to grow. And I have to say, my wife, or my second wife, Lil. Now, Lil Harden, she played with King Oliver's band, and she was the one who basically told me, she said, well, Louis, I don't want to be married to a second cornetist. I want to be married to a first cornetist. And I said, I can't leave Joe, man. Joe did this and Joe did that, and I can't do it. She said, well, it's either going to be Joe or me. And needless to say, it was her. The reason I bring her up is because she helped to push me. Sometimes you need someone to push you to do things, even if it's uncomfortable. And in me doing that, that ultimately led to me having my own band. Ultimately, I was called by New York to Fletcher Henderson, who's the great jazz composer and arranger. And so I played with him. And of course, then you have, again, Duke Ellington. That's another inspiration for me. So you have all these people. And like I said, if you have the passion and the will and the discipline, mentors come. They show up. So it's really incumbent upon you to have that passion and that will. And they'll show up. They'll come for you. Yes, anyone else? Let me get down here, yes.
You played music and sang all over the world. Is there any place that was a standout, one of your favorite places to play?
Yeah. The gentleman wanted to know, was there any place that was a standout for me in playing music? Ghana in Africa. Oh, man. It was an experience, it made, there was a belonging that I felt. There was, we were playing and the people, and there was a woman who was dancing and she reminded me of my mother. And I said, I know my people come from me. I know I come from here. And I felt a belonging. Certainly I was listening to that music that came from there. So I would say Ghana was the highlight, But, I enjoyed, jamming in Britain too, man. Yeah, cats know how to swing over there. But yeah, but I would say Ghana, certainly. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Was there anyone else from your school that went into music?
Oh, with me, no, not to the same degree. Not to the same degree. There were people, certainly, who, there were kids who played in the band, because, we were, they had funerals down there and we played the music. And so there were, students who did that, certainly, but in terms of carrying it as far as I did, no, I don't know of anybody. I don't know of anybody. Yes.
Why do they call you Satchmo, and do you like that?
Well, it's a funny story. I landed in England, and my nickname was Satchel Mouth. I had a few nicknames: Satchel Mouth, Dipper Mouth, Gate Mouth, all that. And so, I suppose this gentleman from England had heard, I guess, Satchel Mouth. And so, I got off the plane, and he said, well, hello, Satchmo. Satchmo. I kind of like that. And so I kept it. And so that's why they call me Satchmo. But I would say he was the one who called me that. He was the first one who said, hey, how are you, Satchmo? And that's how that started. Yes. Anyone else?
How are you going to channel that it's a wonderful world with all the things you've seen in the world? I just want to thank you for that song. That gives me so much hope, even in the face of dark times. And just want to thank you for giving that, the gift of that song to humanity whenever you did that. How did
Thank
do
you.
it?
Thank you. I mean, I haven't done that. This is 1966, so I hadn't done that yet. But if you're thanking me for something I'm going to do, thank you, man. Thank you, man. You a gas. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let me get one more question. Let me get one. Is there one more? Or? Yeah.
Out of all the songs that you have done and released, performed, is there one that sticks close to you that you had an easy or hard time writing, or just the way that you perform it or the way it came to you stuck with you?
That's a good question. Well, Sleepy Time Down South, which, had a lot of controversy about it because, it said engaged in kind of stereotypes. But for me, the song represents what it was growing up and that feel of the song. See, sometimes there's a certain feeling about a song that moves me. So that's one. Black and Blue is another one. That means a lot to me. I sang that in Ghana, and Kwame Nkrumah had heard it, and he had tears in his eyes. So Black and Blue means a lot to me. Hello Dolly means a lot because Hello Dolly was so unexpected. Matter of fact, I didn't even like the song in the beginning, but as it turns out, that was the song that I won my only Grammy. Yeah, I won a Grammy in 1965 for Hello Dolly. So, and there are other songs too that mean a lot to me. Certainly, the song that kind of introduced me to the world in terms of scat. That song, I'm trying to remember Heebie Jeebies. West End Blues, which was a composition by Joe King Oliver, but that was something that really was meaningful to me because it helped to establish me in many ways. Ain't Misbehaving. Now, I had, that's Fats Waller, who's a friend of mine, another musician, and, I was in the pit, and it was on Broadway show, the light would go down to me, I would play, the melody, but then I would sing it, and the singing itself became a hit. So, yeah, Ain't Misbehaving is another one. Yeah, there's a lot of them, man, there's a lot of them. I want to thank all of you for your questions, and I hope you come to see Pops down the line, and remember, you got to leave it all behind you. Let's do it, y'all.
Thank you guys again so much for coming out. I would like to introduce you to Marvin Jefferson, who, as I mentioned, is here from New Jersey and is an incredibly well-accomplished and just engaging scholar, as you can now see. Sometimes it's hard to explain how moving Chautauqua is until you actually watch it and engage with it. So I'll start us off with questions for Marvin. Marvin, can you share what it is about, we talked about, obviously I mentioned High Plains Chautauqua asked you to put together Louis Armstrong, but it's your choice. It takes them, we usually have to give our scholars at least a year, sometimes longer, 18 months to 2 years to develop these characters. So what was it about Louis that, we got you to agree he was worth developing?
Well, terror. Someone has said, boy, you really can't pick them. You got King, you got Robeson, you got Louis Armstrong, but I didn't pick them. You guys had suggested him. And I think what the connection I have with Louis Armstrong and in portraying him is really an homage to my family. Because my family is I come from a jazz musician family. If you ever Google Andy and the Bay Sisters, just Google them. Or you Google Andy Bay, or, Google, the Progeny, my cousin Darius, my other cousin Aisha, my cousins Sate. There was this musical. If you Google Andy Bay, you'll find. So in some ways, it's a connection with them, because I kind of went a different way with my artistry, because they went with the music, and I kind of went with the acting. And so doing Louis Armstrong is my way of connecting with them. And it's in many ways, it's kind of like an homage to them. It was hard, it was difficult, I'm still researching, I'm still learning, so, it's an ongoing process, but I'm extremely glad that I got a chance to do it. Yeah.
Other questions for Marvin? One here and one back there.
What was your favorite part about researching and listening and putting together this piece?
I guess learning that he came from what some folk would call nothing. Louis Armstrong literally came from the bottom. I mean, there are things that I did not include because it may make your hair stand on end, because, it's the abject poverty that he came from. But, people like the Karnofskis and the community kind of embraced him. They called him Little Louis. They embraced him and they loved him. And so, in many instances, they wanted the best for him. So when he went to Chicago, when he was on his way, a lot of the community came out to wish him well. That's a true thing. Because they loved him. And to see someone who society or the world would kind of like toss away, but they have this gift. And that gift basically split American culture, music, in two. There's before Louis Armstrong and then there's after. And so when I read about him, I don't realize the impact. I didn't realize the impact. Someone had suggested that Louis Armstrong's impact it's like Einstein or Henry Ford with the car, or with Edison with the light bulb. It's so part of the American fabric that we don't even think about it. But singing was liberated, music was liberated through Louis Armstrong, which is why they say he's the most consequential musician in the history of our country, and certainly maybe in the history of the world. So me learning that is what really, really inspired me, without a doubt.
We got one back here, and then we'll go up there.
I was just wondering how you did the voice, because he has a very unique voice, and it's hard to nail that voice.
I'm laughing because someone asked me that before. They said, "My God, how do you?" Well, a lot of lozenges, a lot of gargling, because it could be, But again, as actors, I don't know if there's any actors out here. We find a way. We find a way to get it done, But it's not easy. But I can't cheat them in that way. So I have to, and try to, hopefully toward the end of the tour we'll find out if I'm talking like this. you know what I mean? But this is an experiment. It is truly an experiment. This is only the 4th time I've done it.
Wow.
Only the 4th time. I did it once for High Plains in Greeley. I did it twice in New Jersey. And now I'm back in Colorado. It's the 4th time. Yeah, so ask me when it's all over. Ask me when it's done. Anyone else? Any other question?
12 more to go, so it should be fine.
Just curious if you know at what age Louis Armstrong was really accomplished. was that?
Well, I would say in his 20s, because it was in his 20s when he went to Chicago in 22, and then he left King Oliver's band in 24. Lewis was about 25 years old. So with that 25 to 30 period where he really blew up, because there was a series of records that were made during that time with his Hot 5 and Hot 7 that basically revolutionized jazz, that revolutionized American music. You know, it flipped the whole script on all of it. And it became the template of what American music would be and could be. So between 25 and 30, that was the year that Louis Armstrong really became accomplished. Without a doubt. Yeah. Anyone else?
Sorry to make you break character earlier. I still wanted to thank Lewis directly for that. But maybe it's probably a better question for you. What you were saying a minute ago about what brought Lewis from being a jazz icon to a true icon of American history, maybe is that song, It's a Wonderful World. So would love to hear the story of that. Like,
Sure.
When did it come about?
Yeah, they offered the song to him, and it was in 1967. That's why, this is in 66, that was in 67. And at first he was a little trepidatious about it because it seemed, initially saccharine, but as he said the words, he really believed that it's a wonderful world. And it's when he talked about I see the children and watching them grow, he's talking about him in Corona, Queens, where he lived, and he lived there, when his wife got him the house, and and he didn't want to move there. He could have moved anywhere he wanted to, but he wanted to stay there because he got to know the families and the children, and so it became very personal for him. And so that's why that song has so much meaning, and it became one of his favorite songs, because it reflected what he said. It is a wonderful world if we would just look at it and stop trying to destroy it, and he really felt that way. So yeah, yes.
Do we have it? Okay. We'll do two more. I'm going to stop here because
Okay, I want to get this gentleman back. Yeah, let me get this.
I was wondering what made you want to approach both acting and scholarship from this perspective, because I haven't really seen anything like it before, and I think it's fascinating.
Oh wow. Well, acting for me, that's my my foundation, acting and directing. I went to Rutgers Mason Grove School of the Arts, and I started in high school, and and then from high school it was to college, and then from college I started a theater company in '81 where I was the producer / co-artistic director for 15 years, and it was in '97 when two gentlemen who sadly passed away, who became my certainly mentors in history. One gentleman's name is Dr. Clement Alexander Price, and another gentleman's name is Giles R. Wright, who headed the African American wing of the New Jersey Historical Commission. And they wanted to do something special for Paul Robeson. So they asked me, Marvin, would you want to do a Robeson Chautauqua? I said, a Robeson what? I had no idea what it meant. But I was commissioned to do it. I said, sure, although it scared the hell out of me again. And part of my training was to come out to West Fargo, North Dakota, to see what the Chautauquans actually did. The High Plains Chautauqua was going on at that time. And I was fascinated by it. I mean, you have these scholars / actors, who are portraying these figures, and you have to learn all this information and be able to answer I've always loved history. And as an actor, I portrayed people in history, but it was really fascinating to me. And it was kind of like a melding of things that I love the most, acting and history. And so it started in '97. It caught wind, and the Newark school system said we need to get this in the school system. So for the next 12 years, I was portraying Paul Robeson throughout all the schools in Newark. For fourth graders, I talked about Robeson as a singer. For the middle school, I talked about him as a scholar and athlete. And for the high school, I talked about him as a political activist. And it just caught wind. And so after that, I said, well, since I had done Martin Luther King so many times as an actor, why don't I do Dr. King as a Chautauqua figure? I did that. And then Ohio Humanities asked me if I wanted to do York, the only African-American member of the Lewis and Clark expedition. So I did that. And then, of course, Colorado Humanities asked me to do Louis Armstrong. And the rest, as they say, is history. Yeah.
You did wonderfully, just to say. But I had pop into my head. Did you have, while watching videos and researching and watching his performances, did you have one in particular that was your favorite? And who else would you want to portray in the future?
Good question. I don't know. That second question, I'm going to say, I don't know. I'm going to keep that right there. I don't know. I don't even want to say it. I don't know. There's footage of him, Louis Armstrong, on the Dick Cavett show. And that was in the 60s, of course. And he's an older man. And, but he's funny as all get out. And he's engaging. And so I looked at that. That was really a good way of really capturing his mannerisms. And, oh man, I was sharp, man. Oh man. So I got a lot of that from that. And it was around that same time period I'm dancing about. That might have been in 67, 66, I'm not sure. So it was Louis around the time that I'm portraying him. And so that was the thing. But in terms of that other thing, I don't want somebody might hit me with some other stuff. I want it to be a surprise.
All right, thank you guys so much. Marvin is happy to hang out and answer questions. I just wanted to, if I didn't get you a postcard, let me know. There in the back. It has some recommended reading, because that's kind of the hope of this, is that after you watch this, you go tell others, but then you also keep thinking about his legacy. I also wanted to share, and I'm sorry, this is a draft version, this is not the final version, but if you liked Chautauqua, Grand Junction, we now have kind of a flowing, long-standing Chautauqua that runs in September. So this year it's September 12th and the 13th. And don't tell them I told you, because they haven't seen this yet. But we're going to have somebody doing Hedy Lamarr, Nikola Tesla, Charles Darwin, and Marie Curie. So this year's theme is Venture into the Unknown. So if you like this, there is also an evaluation in the back, and at the bottom it asks you to share your name and email. So we'll have that in our email once it starts going out to everyone. But also, if you have a chance, the evaluations are great to help us think about the program itself, what it's accomplishing, and just the benefit of it. So if you have a few minutes and you don't mind, I'll hand those out in the back. But otherwise, thank you to Marvin. Come ask him questions if you have it. But I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. That was a wonderful